Okay, we are now live again. So I think we can do it this time. So my phone's behaving, the weather is still nice, and we're going through. So I'm just waiting for our voices to join again. Here we go. And we've requested everybody. We should have all of our amazing speakers joining us. So, and I just got my fantastic. Okay, do you know what? This time, no matter what, we're going to continue the conversation. I requested our final speaker, and she should join us. Hopefully, if not, we're going to have the conversation. Is absolutely fine. So, we're just waiting for Marvelyn to come in. I don't know if she can see us, but hopefully. Right. Okay. So today, exactly. It's an interesting day. So today is International Albinism Awareness Day. That's what this conversation is about. We've been trying to kickstart it for 3 times now, and this is take 3, and we're going to stick to it no matter what. Right. So what does that mean to you before we even kind of talk about the deeper part of it? Like, what is today to you?
Today for me is, I would say, absolutely an answer to prayer. Just thanking God because, He created us as well. And it's important for us to not only shine, but allowing Him to shine through us. And He's like, okay, I created you and you're human just like everybody else. So it's just a pure blessing from God from above.
I love that.
Mhm.
That's powerful. And
Yes.
let's go backwards now and say, hello, how are you? And just tell everyone a little bit about you.
Um, I am Shelby Garrison. I'm 40 years old. Um, I work with children in a private school setting. Uh, I went to school at Greenville Technical College, and where I went for early childhood education. I believe that children was my purpose, even though there's challenges, but we get through those challenges from day to day. And just coming up, as a child, not being able to, fit in and wondering why your skin looks different from everybody else and you can't be in the sun and you have to make sure that you have sunscreen and you got shades and you're wearing a hat and it's all kind of, just all kind of just differences just going on
Obstacle.
around and you're just trying to, figure things out. And also with the eyesight and wearing different types of glasses and, using magnifiers to, zoom in and to blow things up so that you can actually see it. And just learning from, from day to day.
I wanted to ask, as children, when we grow up, we notice that we're different or we're similar or we're something with other people as we grow up. At what age were you when you realized that I am different to like the other children around me?
Um, Probably maybe around the age of maybe 3 or 4. Just entering into school as far as like preschool, kindergarten, just noticing, a different. I wasn't quite there yet, but I knew it was a some type of a difference because my grandparents, they were very protective of me, as far as like people staring at me and just very protective.
And I wanted to ask, when did you understand the beauty of what makes you unique? Like, when did you fully comprehend and understand like your identity and what this was?
I didn't really come into that until, oh my God, it was had to been like my late 20s, um, maybe early 30s, because it took a while because there was a lot of, insecurities, and it's like, why is my skin so pale, So it was just that those moments that I couldn't get it together, but I just had to, connect with my Heavenly Father, and He had to, like, really straighten me out, because, like, look, I created you, and you have a purpose. Hmm.
I think that's so powerful because we all go through society's perception of what we're supposed to be,
Right.
society's perception of what like human is or what people like what's right or what's wrong and all these things. But spiritually
Hmm.
speaking, when we put away the chaos and the whateverness of society and we look deep within and the fact that we are created by a higher power,
Hmm.
that's a powerful realization and a comfort to have. And I think that's so important. I use that in my day-to-day life
Hmm.
because I live in a world that has a different ideas of what's
Hmm.
considered, okay, and there are aspects of my life that they don't consider okay. So
Hmm.
it's definitely, yeah. And it says this year, I'm looking at the UN kind of summary of today. It says the theme is strength beyond all odds. What do you think of that
Yeah.
theme?
Oh, just basically pressing on, just pressing through those hard, challenging times. When you fall down, definitely get back up and just, pressing on.
Okay. And it says like some of the key things of today highlight the achievements of people with albinism around the world. Do you know people that you look up to from the community who are like at the forefront? Yell for Change is doing an amazing thing, but is there
Hmm.
anyone like in representation in places that you think, wow, like I see you up there?
Definitely I've came across, I believe her name is Deandra Forrest. She's a professional model.
Mm-hmm.
And also there's another young man, he's a professional model, and he's actually been on TV also. So um they have had challenging times where, people didn't want to sign them as a model, but they continue on to press through. And I've actually saw them, in magazines and things like that.
Yeah.
So I say much strength to them. And so they do stand, they have taken a stand,
Mm-hmm.
for us.
Amazing. I want to
Mhm.
also kind of go because education is so, so important. And there are people
Mhm.
listening who see you, who see Marvelin, who see all of the amazing, like the models that you spoke about, but they don't really understand like what it means, right? So what
Right.
part of today's come? Oh, Marvelyn is here with us. Amazing. Sorry, love. We just spoke about like defining what today meant. And we also spoke about just got to know like our speaker very quickly. So I just want to invite you to the conversation, Marvelyn, real quick. Just tell everyone a little bit about you and just just tell the listeners what makes you amazing.
Well, for me personally, it's about identifying who I am as a person, not just a person with albinism. It's also knowing that I am God's creation and I am unique and I'm made to stand out. So that's what my shirt says, made to stand out. So for me personally, I feel as if having this condition doesn't define me as a person, but it's actually learning more about me than um, than just beyond my complexion.
Amazing, amazing. I love that. And just very briefly, I'm sure you guys know each other's names, right? I don't need to introduce, like, I don't need to do that. You know each other. Exactly.
Right.
So I don't need to do that. I get weird when I'm hosting something and I'm like, everyone get to know each other. Let's do this together. So yeah. I was just asking, like, Marvelyn, when did you know, at what age did you know that you were different, quote unquote?
I think when I was very young, when I was a child, I knew the difference. When I was back home in Jamaica, I knew my skin was different. I thought maybe, hang on, my mom, that I knew who my mom was and I know who my family was, but something was missing. So I'm thinking, hang on, why does my skin look this way if they're that way? And I never had any knowledge about albinism, so I didn't know any better. But they were like, "Oh, there's nothing wrong with you. You're okay. God made you different." So that's the kind of thing that my mama would tell me when I was in Jamaica. So yeah, so that's when I noticed. I think it was about 3 or 4. I knew my skin was different.
Amazing. And I wanted to kind of, we're going to go into the technical side of things now because education is very important. And that's one of the point of today's conversation, to get to know you both, to hear your story, but to also define the key terminologies for people to be educated. And correct me if this is wrong. I got this from the UN, which is kind of like talking about today. And they said albinism is a rare, non-contagious, genetically inherited difference present at birth. In almost all types of albinism, both parents must carry the gene for it to be passed on, even if they do not have albinism themselves. So that means a parent can not have albinism themselves, but their child can be born that way. Does that make sense to you both? Is that
Yes,
real?
yes, that is correct. Because with that said, it's like it's a recessive gene that gives you the melanin of your skin and your hair and your eyes. So if a person is born with a defective gene, that's how a person with albinism is born. So with, in a sense, where it affects the pigmentation of the skin. I mean, it is a 25% chance of a person having albinism or children with albinism.
Yeah. Amazing. And it says here that the very first sentence is a rare, non-contagious, genetically inherited from both parents, that inherited from birth. That key word, non-contagious. I remember going to school and I remember watching, documentaries and watching different things and seeing the discrimination that people with albinism face. And so that kind of leads on to my next point now of the stigma that's around it, like something that's somebody's genetic identity and that's something that's, part of them, is seen as, a thing that a lot of people don't understand. So how does the stereotype as well as the discrimination impact you both and the community, do you think?
Do you want to go first, Ms. Vic?
As far as like just, trying to fit in, just that having that security that, that somebody cares, or, that person, loves you or something like that. But just to just to be able to have, relationships and friendships with, other people, and not just because you have albinism, is, you just want to be able to, you know, just be able to, join in and just, be amongst the number.
Marvelyn, what can you add to that?
For me, well, I would say the fitting kind of thing, because like in school, me, I was a people's person and everything. But when I was outside of that time, I just felt, even though I was around people, but I still felt that isolation point, because I didn't feel like people understood who I was. But they looked at my skin complexion and their prejudice and their comments, and there were times where I was just, oh man, I don't feel to fit in. But as times went on, it took me a lot of time to understand myself as a person. And then obviously I was a bit of a person, I didn't really talk about albinism as much because of the stigma and everything that goes around it. I just didn't talk about it as much because I felt a bit embarrassed, and everybody thought, oh, what color are you? And I was like, okay, I prefer not to say. But I'm not ashamed of it, you know. I'm not ashamed of who I am, and I'm not ashamed of being different, because I think being different is very unique.
I love that. I love that. Being different is very unique. We were talking earlier about when that education and that sense of pride and understanding of your identity first hit you, and the very importance of that. When you have that yourself, then it's easier to control the, you know, negative energy from others. And so I think that's really powerful. On that same kind of note on education and understanding, it says albinism results in a lack of pigmentation, melanin, in the hair and the skin and the eyes, causing vulnerability to the sun and bright light. What is that like for you both and people who kind of go through that? I'm sure, like, if you're having like sensitivity to the sun and the light and things, what's life like?
Do you remember in school, Ifraah, where I used to sit in the front of the class?
Yeah.
And also I couldn't sit near the windows.
Mm-hmm.
That was one of the reasons why I couldn't.
Yeah.
I was prone to that sensitivity. So I couldn't sit, I had to sit where there's less light.
So you have to make advanced preparations, even like in a classroom when you're learning, to make sure that where you sit and all of that is taken into consideration.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Was that the same? Like, was it easy though for teachers to understand that, or for the people who are in the places of responsibility to understand that and take that into consideration?
Yes, because when I was in school, all the teachers knew about my condition, so everything was prepared. And hey, Josh!
Thank you, Joshua.
He's another one with albinism as well.
Amazing.
Yes. Yes. When I was in school and everything, teachers would always prepare my work. So, you know, like, for example, in English and everything, the teachers will have like, oh, he's here. Hi, Josh, how you doing?
Hello.
Yes, amazing.
How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm okay, thanks. I guess I'm live. I don't know. I've never, you know what it is? I've never done these sort of Instagram lives with multiple people in them. So it kind of trips me out just a little bit. But
it's really weird.
Happy Albinism Awareness Day.
Thank you.
Happy Albinism Awareness Day to you all. We're just basically having a little educational moment, Josh. My name is Ifraah. I'm a friend of Marvelin's. I'm in London, and we're basically just talking about like your own stories, but also the key educational aspects of it. We're talking about like the importance of today and the education. Those are the very important things to kind of make sure that globally we share like stories, but also put facts and kind of demystify stigmas to kind of put like, you know, education at the forefront. So right now we just went back into kind of childhood when you first realized that, you know, you were kind of, you're different, as we call it, quote unquote, and you know, when did that realization came to you, and education, and what life has been like for you as a person. And then now we're talking about the stigma, and then further on into the education side. So Joshua, just very quickly introduce yourself to everyone and just tell us a little bit about your journey and your story.
So my name is Josh Cintron. I'm coming to you from Kissimmee, Florida. I was born, raised, tempered, and characterized in Brooklyn, New York. I'm a Latino with albinism. I'm Puerto Rican, but I was born in New York City. And a lot of there was no awareness of albinism when I was a kid. There just wasn't. There was barely any research. And the doctors pretty much said, listen, they went ahead and they told my mother, listen, I don't know if he's really going to amount to anything. And, you know, is he going to have a normal life? Maybe, but he might be on like Social Security or like supplemental income for the rest of his life. And my mother didn't want to hear that. She did not want to hear that. I went through school with as much accommodations as I could manage. It wasn't easy. I was bullied, unfortunately. I mean, it's par for the course, but my entire life was pretty much spent proving people one by one wrong. I got my driver's license at age 29, give or take. Yeah.
Nice.
I drive with a bioptic lens, so that was something to get used to. I'm an IT professional of 17 years in the field so far, and that was a journey in and of itself. And the reason why I'm in Florida actually is because we just launched an app for a platform that me and another person with albinism were starting up, called Story More. And I'm also a voice actor.
Wow.
So it's like it's little by little, it's like each one of those moments, like even though they sound really big to me, it's like I kind of have to humble myself and just sort of sit back and just be like, wait, this is actually happening. You know? And the weird part is, I guess this is what happens when you're kind of faced with adversity, with like adversity, you kind of have to sink or swim. But in the same instance, like if I were to have a child with albinism, right, I, in retrospect, wouldn't want them to go through the stuff that I went through as a child.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I wouldn't want them to go through the bullying and the teachers that had absolutely no idea what they were doing when it came to me. And like the doctors that had no idea what was going on with me and whatever. They're just, because a good portion of it was something very traumatic. You know, so I mean, I watched these lives that you do, by the way, and these are very awesome lives. I could just sit back to a cup of coffee and just enjoy it.
Amazing. So, and today we forced you to join one of them, so this is cool.
Yeah, I have my cup of coffee, so I'm happy.
Exactly. I want to bring in our two other speakers onto the conversation. Did anything Joshua said just connected with you, and like that you just think, oh, I know what he's talking about?
Mm-hmm. Yes, yeah. Definitely. The school, bullying, and just, you know, the eyesight, the squinching, you know, when the sun is out, and you definitely have to have some shades on, and definitely those glasses. It's a must. But, you know, definitely, because I remember sitting on the school bus, and I turned around, and this guy said, if I were you, if I was that ugly, I would not turn around. And that broke me so bad.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah.
No
way. Oh my God.
First of all, I don't, you'll forgive me because I really don't mean to sound forward or flirtatious or anything, but
right.
Like everybody here is beautiful. Everyone here.
Right.
Thank you.
I don't like, the one thing that really kind of affects me is like when people will just look at you and you look different.
Oh my God! Somebody actually said that. Wow, I'm speechless.
Yeah. Marvel is still shocked. This is like one of the most.
No, but to be honest with you, like I'm shocked, but I'm not surprised at the same time. You know, because I thought I've had the same kind of thing happen to me, and I've had people call me ugly on the road sometimes, and so I definitely know what you're talking about. Because I thought, okay, I suppose I only want to face that moment, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Oh my God. But you know what? Like, I was actually going to ask you all, you're at an adult stage now where you've gone through the ups, the downs, the pain, the healing, the everything of, growing up different. Again, I use that as quotes because you're unique and you're beautiful and you're incredible, right?
Mhm.
But if you were to speak to a child in a school who's basically still going through this confusing state of being judged by a world that doesn't understand them, what would you say to that child?
I would say you are strong, much strength to you. Press on.
Mm-hmm.
I love that. I love that. Joshua, what would you say to that student, that child?
I would say, first, your feelings are valid, because that's one thing we're taught at a young age, like, oh, we have to be strong and be quiet and just take it. We don't. Your feelings are valid, but you are a lot stronger than what you give yourself credit for.
Mhm.
I love that. I love that. Marvelyn, what can you add to that?
Oh man, you don't took the words out of my mouth, but I would say you're born to win. I would say you're born to win because obviously you're at a stage where in your life you're discovering. So I think what the people who are judging are the ones who are losing. You're born to win. Absolutely.
Yeah. You're born to win because you're unique. If everybody else looks exactly the same and everybody else is the same, they're in a boring cycle. And you've been created to be unique and special. And that's a special thing that a lot of us don't take that into consideration sometimes. And that's amazing. So at the beginning, I was asking B if she could name somebody who's in the public eye or somebody who's like because one of the thing for today is to acknowledge people who are, representation is so important. So is there anyone that you guys can think of that you think, wow, they are there and, they're amazing?
I'll go first.
Yeah.
You remember Big Brother, Ify?
Yes.
You remember
Yes.
that guy Darnell? He was the first from Albinism to go on that.
Yeah, I was thinking of Danielle as well. So that's amazing, definitely. What about you both? What do you think?
I really have to think about this one, to be honest.
Yeah. And so I want to now talk about kind of the health side of things. And it says here, the lack of melanin in the skin makes it difficult to go in the sun and with light and things, we spoke about that. But it also talks about the impact it has on vision impairments. What does that mean for you all and how does that impact your day-to-day life?
Challenging, very challenging. Just struggling, just being able to actually see a street sign, the menu at a restaurant, etc. The different fonts as far as like the prints, just having to just actually being able to see and to see what it is and to call it for what it is.
Definitely. Marvel and Joshua?
For me, it would be the print. Definitely the print. And, as I was saying earlier, that, the teachers had to enlarge papers for me. And obviously, even with exam times as well, that they had to make preparations, the exam board to take to work, this person's slightly impaired. So that was a struggle for me as well. And also when I was in class as well, back in the day when they had the blackboard. Oh God, that was a struggle. Oh Lord, that was hard. That was hard. No joke. I struggled. I couldn't focus I mean, I know a subject, but to write it, I had to say I'm not one of the girls, and listen, you read that for me, and that for me was very frustrating. That's something that I struggled big time, and it really made me frustrated. You know that. Oh, why is it that? Okay, I'm asking for help. I'm very independent. I'm strong, whatever. But my vision is holding me back from doing these things.
Wow. That's so true. Joshua, what about you? How does the vision side of it impact your day to day?
So when it comes to the vision side of things, a lot of people here in the States, wherever you are on the blindness spectrum, you're always faced with some sort of discrimination, where it's something subtle or it's something just right there in your face. When it comes to so much as getting a job, I mean, think about it. We're one way or another, because of our vision, we're all thought of as liabilities.
Yes,
we're
absolutely.
all thought of as liabilities, regardless of what our qualifications are, what we have on our resume, how long our experience is. One way or another, deep down inside, we're all thought of as liabilities. And it's such a hit to the self-esteem. It's so frustrating. But then the other frustrating part of this is, and I really hate to go down this road, but it's a road that I have to go down. It's the sort of, I don't know how to phrase this, so you'll forgive me if I kind of stumble over my words. It's the sort of, oh, I don't need that sort of device, you're doing it the wrong way, from our own community. You know, yeah. we have people in the albinism community, in the visually impaired community, in the totally blind community, that will bully other people like us, okay? And that will flat out say, oh, I don't need that. Why do you need that? Or you're not using that the right way. Or why don't you save that sort of stuff for people that are really blind, from our own community? And I am astounded by that sort of thing. You know, so it's the vision, and it's like mentally, it's just exhausting.
I'm glad you mentioned mentally, because this whole conversation started off when me and Marvelyn had a conversation about Mental Health Awareness Month. And the fact that even though that was May, I run a campaign that's called Mental Health Beyond May. So because I believe conversations like today, even though the calendar says today is Albinism Awareness Day, to me it's not. Tomorrow is, the day after is, the day after that is. Every day is the day that we talk about important things, that we shouldn't just leave it for calendar dates. Because when you do that, it kind of dehumanizes and kind of creates like this sense of like a calendar for certain things. Like June, we'll talk about this, and May, we talk about this, and this, we talk about this. But every day in our conversation is how we should carry on that conversation. So that's really important. So with that in mindset, how does mental health impact? Of course, it has to be a lot as well with, you know, you going through this, but also juggling work, juggling education, juggling life. But at the same time, you're juggling a stigma of like something that society doesn't understand. How does that work, all of it together, going through that?
So that is a very, very, very loaded question. But I'm going to do my best to answer everything. Mental health it affects us a lot more than we think. The mind is a very powerful thing. And I'll give you an example. One of my closest friends, her name is Danielle. She's also a woman with albinism. We started a podcast about maybe a year ago, and it's not exclusively talk of albinism, but we've had many conversations to where they've went down the road of mental health. They've went down the road of, oh, let's talk about like our relationships with family as a child, or like our interactions with other kids as whatever. And I guess the first run-in that I ever had with any sort of mental health problems or whatever was when I was young. And I'm never going to forget this. I was in the second grade. I went to elementary school in Brooklyn, and there was this young lady that was there, and kids are really freaking cruel. Okay, they have no filter whatsoever. I was the only kid with albinism in my class, the only one that looked like me in my class, in a predominantly Latino neighborhood. And I myself, I'm Latino. I'm Puerto Rican. But you know, in like when you go on a field trip and you have like the buddy system and people are supposed to hold hands and everything, nobody wanted to hold my hand. Nobody wanted to hold my hand. And I could not have felt any more dejected. And that's one of the things that I talked about on the show. And I still kind of feel it in here, because it's like there are other children with albinism that are probably going through that. And so I think alongside the excuse me, alongside the bare bones research of, hey, this is how it affects you physically, I think we also need to talk about, because this doesn't get talked about enough. This is the first time I've actually ever heard anyone talk about mental health with any sort of correlation to albinism. I think we need to talk more about mental health ramifications with people with albinism. Because, I mean, just in full transparency, I have been dealing with depression and anxiety since I was a child. And a lot of other people with albinism are probably doing the same thing. And we wind up building really unhealthy coping mechanisms, and we're self-destructive, and we're our worst critics. And we deserve so much better.
Absolutely. I definitely agree with that, because you just touch on the depression side of things. I too struggle with that, with the depression, and with that said as well, because of the bullying and because of the stigma and because of the way how I was treated by some family members with albinism. There were times where they didn't walk on. Some of my family members didn't want to walk on the side of the road. They did not want to walk with me, and also I also had being name called, and sometimes I thought I was diseased.
Me too.
And I used to cry. I'm not gonna lie, I used to cry. And
me too.
I feel like, why is it people are so mean? And then on top of that, some family members want to say, oh, you're an attention seeker. Why are you seeking attention for? Why are you looking for sympathy? But the fact is of the matter, until you're in somebody's shoes, you wouldn't know what it feels like to be called young. You wouldn't know what it's like to say, you're white, and I'm a black. I'm a black person with albinism, so I have two black parents. I know who my mom and my dad, who they are, but the fact when they say, no, you're not black, you're white, your skin is white. And
I got that too.
And it caused a big identity crisis mentally. It makes you feel like you're an outcast.
Let me just say, like, I've been through it. And I know you and I are in separate continents right now, but I'd give you the biggest hug if I could. That is, I've been through it. I've been through the identity crisis. I've been through not knowing who I was. I've been through feeling detached from my own culture, from my own people, rejected from my own peers. And it is, I got a tear in my eye. It's hurtful. It is hurtful.
It's emotional. It is.
Yeah.
It's hurtful.
I feel like it's good to talk about it, because it's a part of the awareness. So obviously for somebody like Ifraah that doesn't understand the condition, she can learn from this.
Massively. And you know what? I'm honored, incredibly honored to be in this conversation and to be learning firsthand from you all. I want to bring Ms. G in really quick to the conversation. Your thoughts on the mental health side of the conversation, and did any of what our other speakers said resonate with you?
Ms. G, you've been quiet.
She was thinking. She was thinking.
Yeah.
If you're tearing up like I am, I get
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, just because you just feel like your own peers, it's like they don't want to have anything to do with you. You know, it's just like, later for you, But I've learned to pray and, press on, and that, God will send those right people in my life that's gonna help me along the way.
I love that. I love that so much. I want to read something to you real quickly. There's a comment here that says, I really love you all, and I hope your day was splendid. I'm in Botswana. I don't have albinism, but I really wish to change what other people think of you in the future. That is beautiful. I love that. I love that. That is beautiful. That is from Saber Gorata, who said, keep up the positivity. So that's amazing. That's amazing. And we've got another friend here that says, I've been knowing Faye since kindergarten, and I never saw her albinism as an issue. She's my friend, and she is beautiful. Period. I'm here for that. That's it. That's
I
it.
mean, she is. Not wrong. I'm just going to how I see it.
Thank you.
Absolutely, absolutely. Now there is something quite serious element of it that I really think we should talk about, because we're talking about education awareness. And sometimes education involves talking about really uncomfortable areas. And if this is trigger for you all, please don't talk about this. But what I want to talk about the human rights aspects of it, and certain things in Africa, when I look at the stigma that surround people with albinism and how they're treated. And I saw this report that Marvel shared with me a few days ago about this young child who had people actually in the community. And that really it just did not sit well with me. So what does that mean to you all? And is that something serious that is impacting a lot of other countries, or is it just in that side of the world?
Oh boy.
Somebody else might want to take the reins on this one.
Yeah.
Because I have very, very strong feelings on this.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, Marvel, can you briefly remind us the article that I'm talking about? I don't know if you remember.
Yes, I do. It's about that little girl in Zambia. But
Yeah.
Oh God. Ugh.
you know, the little girl,
I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry.
No, you know what? I'm glad to talk about it,
It has to be talked about.
It needs to be talked about, honestly. It's actually relevant. We can't just put our feelings aside, because I'm telling you this now, if we don't even shed a tear, whether if you have albinism or not, you're not human.
Yeah.
Because let me tell you, the story is about that little girl that had her hand amputated because of the rituals. That's the myth that they believe that person with albinism have superpowers, and they bring luck and charm, and also they believe that people with albinism are basically are wealthy. You can get wealth, which is not true. And sorry guys.
You're doing amazing.
And it really, I literally cried. I said to my husband, "Yo, my heart is, it's hurting. You know, when you get headaches and the heart and it just feels like a pain in your heart like that. That's how I felt." And I just thought, how can someone be so cruel and wicked? And obviously the robbers pretended that they were cops. They pretended that they were police officers, and they basically hold their mum and her family at gunpoint. And obviously the worst part about it, they amputated the girl's arm in front of her brother. So can you imagine?
Well, hold on a second. There were police officers that were in on this.
No,
they're pretending. Because the family trusted them to open the door. because they you know said under the disguise that they were police officers, because people are now trying every fraud under the sun to try and get through, and that's completely inhumane.
It's like, how do you, as a decent human being, right? And when I first read this story, I became so bent out of shape. So I'm doing my damnedest to keep calm right now. I really am.
Host, your host.
Oh God.
How do you, as a human being, take it upon yourself to dismember another human being just because they look different than you, just because they look like us? Let's dispense with the niceties here. Like, how do you walk into someone's home and that poor little girl? Oh God! Like, how do you do that?
No, that just feels somebody that took a dagger and stabbed me in the heart. Because I mean, to know that even adults go through this as well. People have their hands amputated. And when I've done Yelp Change last year with the boy, he fled. He had to fear for his life. He lost his hand because of this same myth. They believe that they just believe in and I think these myths are stupid, in my opinion. And I also believe that it's a dangerous myth, because why would you inflict pain on somebody? Why would you do that? And especially babies. Come on, man. Babies.
You know what, though? God don't like ugly.
Oh, yeah.
God don't like ugly.
Oh, yeah. Definitely.
If there's any solace that I draw from that, is that God, one way or another, is going to protect his people. And he always does. He always does. So one way or another, whoever did that to that child is going to get their comeuppance.
Recompense.
I don't wish bad upon nobody, but I couldn't read that story. I couldn't.
I want to share this like next part here on the UN education on today. And one of the stigmas around that area of how the most of the pain in the African region is because of that predominantly the continent is obviously people with dark skin. So albinism are easily identified in that kind of surroundings. Yeah. So do you think that's true, like in the sense that in European countries, and I don't know what's like in the States, but for people to kind of, because of the skin color over there, they're easily identifiable. That's why the largest discrimination is over there.
So you first.
For me, I'm not. I think because you know, we have white folks, and you know, we blend in with the white people. We do. So that's not the older class. We blend in with white people. So some people may not understand albinism, because albinism affects all races, not just in the Black community. And so, having said that, I think that if you are surrounded by your own race, they will spot you out than somebody that's not in your race or ethnic group. They won't know the difference. They'll just think, okay, you're just a light-skinned person, you're just normally white. So, so because of the welcome aboard for those who are just joining in. So it is something that is I'm trying to find a word to say. I think it's very seldom.
Yeah.
That in England, especially because here is a lot dominated with whites anyway. So a lot of people wouldn't spot somebody with albinism as often, more than in Africa.
Yeah.
It's the same thing in the U.S. honestly. I don't I don't really get spotted for anything unless I'm in a neighborhood that's predominantly Latino or predominantly Black, because where I live in New York City, it's very diverse, first of all. But then the odd thing is, I get mistaken for Irish, I get mistaken for Italian, I get mistaken for everything else under the sun. And maybe 20% of that is because in living in that area for so long, I also took on the accent. So that kind of makes it a little bit worse, you know? So, but then you have things that happen to me, like me going to the Puerto Rican Day Parade, for where, you know, I want to show pride in my culture, where somebody will literally walk past me and like, dude, stop posing. I'm like, really? Really?
Yeah. What are you doing? Yeah. I get it. That's like me in the Black place. If I go to functions, they're like, what you do? Are you being extra? Blah blah blah. Yeah.
I love that.
All of that. You're not alone on this stretch. You're not alone. Honestly, I know exactly what you're talking. Exactly. The struggle is real, but I see it as what is our ridicule becomes our blessing, because you know what, to be very honest with you, I thought I was the only one who had albinism. I'm being honest. I thought I was the only one.
It's good to know that you're not the only one going through things. And then you hear other people share their story, and then you not only see people who look like you, but you hear the experience of people, what they're going through, and you're like, oh, okay, so you know, there's more of me in the world, and that's powerful. That's incredible. So I want to kind of, as we come to the end now, you're all amazing for spending time with me to educate and to, you know, talk about this. So today it says here, why do we mark, Albinism Awareness Day? And it says, international days like today are important to educate the public on issues of concern, to mobilize political will and resources to educate and provide a way for people to find out information, but to also celebrate and reinforce the achievement of certain people in stigmatized societies. The International Day of Albinism Awareness may be on June 13th, but every day should be part of this conversation. I love that. I love that so much. So what are your thoughts as we conclude on, other than the political and the resources and things? And by the way, is there like websites or books or even like TV shows or things that you can say, if you want to know more about, albinism, watch this, read this, or look at that?
There is one called NOAA. NOAA is the National Organization for Albinism and Hyperpigmentation.
Amazing.
Organization. You have Albinism Fellowship in the UK and Ireland. There's a few. There's a few organizations on Facebook for albinism. So you have the Albino Foundation Trinidad and Tobago. You've got a few of these on social media, because since I started Yell for Change, I've just been looking at these.
And I was about to say Yell for Change. That's
I was going to say that.
Well,
this counts.
We're all Yell for Change, so that's important, yeah. And what about you guys over in the States? Like, is there resources or websites or things that you can recommend to people who want to know more?
So there is I'm blanking on your name. I'm so sorry. There is the NOAA website, the National Organization for Albinism and Hypopigmentation, albinism.org. And then, there's a whole bunch of Facebook groups. There's a whole bunch of, Facebook groups essentially. And I honestly, like, out of my own experience, I've met a lot of wonderful people out of those groups. And I'm an introvert, so I don't like meeting people. So, but yeah.
You're amazing at meeting people, though.
I'm a hermit.
More. Ms. G, is there anything you can add to that? Like, is there resources or things that you can recommend for people?
I have also came across the NOAA website as well. It's definitely good to, just sit down and just take time out to research it. It can tell you about, how it comes about and, how you can, get through things and, how you can research things as far as like, you know, anything medical, any equipment that people with albinism, need to use as far as like work, school, etc. And just basically, just standing out and just, giving people with albinism, giving them a chance because you don't really see, albinism. You don't see them in movies, commercials, just things like that. It, allow them to expand, be creative just as well as the next person.
I love that. I love that. And I would like all three of you to make me a promise that you will continue this conversation amongst each other, and that next year I made a promise myself that I do annual things for, like, conversations that I care about, and I will make sure that whether it's here on Instagram or somewhere else, that we mark this day again, and I hope that will include your voices in this conversation as well. But beyond now until next June, I hope we get to see each other again and continue this conversation. Joshua, put your podcast in the comments somewhere later on, and we'll put them out there for people to continue that conversation. Yell for Change is like what brought us all here together. So that will also be part of the taglines as well. But I am, like I said earlier, that it's been an honor for me to not just read, but to listen and to learn and to see incredible people that I admire and now just learned a lot from. So thank you for being with me today. And just as we conclude, I want to ask you all something like completely randoms. What was the last books you read? Could be anything. The last book you read.
I'm not reading as much, but I'm more like reading the line. I don't take enough time.
Exactly. So always read. That was the point I was trying to make, okay? So if you haven't, when it comes to mental health for me, I escape into books. So if you haven't read a book lately, please make sure you grab yourself a book, and music. So books and music are my escape to when everything gets too much. So yes, lots of music, lots of books, and just stay amazing. Thank you. Any last final words from you all?
I didn't hear.
Sorry, I was going to say any last final words from you all.
Oh no, just thank you for having me. Really.
Very welcome. Very welcome. Yeah, I will try and save this. Hopefully it will be saved on my wall and you can all share it in the platforms. It will be amazing to kind of share the conversation. If it doesn't happen, we will have another conversation and hopefully that will work.
When you close it, just save it.
Yeah? Okay, hopefully I'll do that. But yes, have a good day in America and good night for us.
Be safe.
Bye-bye.